There is a new pathway to permanent residency for aged care workers in Australia. It's not a direct pathway. Your employer will need to sponsor you first on the 482 visa. It's the temporary skilled shortage visa, but at least there's a pathway and also it's prioritized. So it will be processed quickly, so they say. Australia has an aged care worker crisis at the moment. I was actually reading somewhere last week that an additional 35,000 aged care workers are required per year to fill the growing skill shortages. There continues to be a big aging population in Australia, so therefore more and more aged care workers are required. That's why they have opened up the doors for so many aged care workers here in Australia, including allowing international students who are working in aged care to work unrestricted hours. So what is this new pathway to permanent residency for aged care workers? What's required and are you eligible? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tracy Chan and I'm the principal lawyer at Mason Chan Law Group. We have offices all across Australia helping migrants migrate to Australia. If you want to get in contact with myself or one of our fantastic lawyers or migration agents, feel free to contact us in the link below. If you have an urgent matter, do call us directly so we can organize something for you. A couple of weeks ago, it was announced that aged care providers in Australia can now access a new aged care industry labour agreement. This streamlines the recruitment of qualified direct care workers from overseas to work in aged care. So these employers, aged care providers, can access this labour agreement and employ people from overseas to fill these positions if Australians are not available to. So let's break it down and see how this applies to you. First of all, you're looking at the temporary skills shortage visa. There is no direct pathway to permanent residency here. You first have to be employed and sponsored on this TSS subclass 482 visa. And the direct care occupations that are available for sponsorship is nursing support worker, personal care assistant, and aged or disabled carer. To start the process, the employer, the aged care provider, must enter into a memorandum of understanding with the relevant union depending on the occupation. This includes the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, the Health Services Union, or the United Workers Union. So this is when you get advice from a migration lawyer or agent in regards to the next steps, but here is just a high-level overview. Once you've signed and entered into that memorandum of understanding with the relevant industry union, you can submit the labour agreement request to the Department of Home Affairs. The requirements of this labour agreement is different to other 482 visas. There are certain very strict conditions for the 482 visas, but for the aged care industry labour agreement, there are certain terms and concessions. First of all, there's a 2-year pathway to permanent residence through the employer nominated scheme subclass 186 visa. There is a streamlined visa nomination and priority visa application processing. This means that your application submitted to the department will be prioritized and processed really quickly. Hopefully we're talking days or at least, a couple of weeks. We're not talking 6, 7, 8, 10 months here. Hopefully, as soon as it gets submitted, it is something that will get approved in days or maybe weeks. When we work with accredited sponsors in Australia, those nominations and visas, they only take a couple of weeks. So it is possible for them to process it during this time frame. It's just whether, you fit the criteria for it. There is no post-qualification work experience required for this nomination, unlike other 482 visas. There is English language concessions for workers with relevant community language skills. You must pay the nominee/employee an annual salary of at least $51,222. So these would be the requirements for the employer when they submit the nomination for the nominee. So now let's look at the requirements for the visa applicant, i.e. the employee or the nominee. To be eligible for this visa, you must hold a relevant AQF Certificate 3 or equivalent or higher qualification. If you don't have a qualification, 12 months of relevant work experience can be used in lieu of this qualification. However, I've found that most people working in this sector in these occupations definitely have a Certificate 3 or higher because the employers, aged care providers, wouldn't employ these candidates if they didn't have at least the qualifications. Now, if you are a candidate from overseas, then you will need to obtain a positive skills assessment from the Australian Australian Nursing and Midwifery Accreditation Council or the Australian Community Workers Association if your qualifications are from overseas. This would also apply if you want to claim work experience if you don't have the qualifications. Now, there is an English requirement, but it is a lot lower than other visas. You are required to have at least IELTS equivalent of 5 each, or if you are a worker with target community language skills employed in a culturally or linguistically diverse aged care provider, then you only need IELTS 4.5 or equivalent. So there's just 2 requirements there, so it depends on where you're working. So the hardest part here is just having a chat to your employer to see if they would sponsor you. If they're willing to sponsor you, then get in touch with us or your migration agent or lawyer and start the process. I have already started the process for many aged care providers, and these employers are jumping on the opportunity. They are super excited because there is such a shortage of workers in these businesses at the moment. If they agree to sponsor you, you would first need to sort out the labor agreement, then the nomination and visa is easier. And once you do have the labor agreement in place, then they can use it for future employees and visa applicants as well. So there's lots of benefits for them to get into this labor agreement now. So basically the process now for our clients, a lot of them are currently working in aged care. We've provided them the information. They've gone back and had a chat to the employers. The employers are definitely interested. Then they reach out to us. We speak to the employer, talk them through their requirements, the fees that are associated with it, and then we commence the process. If they don't have a labor agreement in place, we do the labor agreement for them, and we are starting that process now. So we are just, starting our first labor agreements for this at the moment. And once that's approved, then we look at applying for the nomination and visa, which is again supposed to be a streamlined process as indicated by the department. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with people who need it. For those of you who want to get in contact with us, our contact details are below. Send an email through, give us a buzz, and we will organize a time to chat with you. Don't forget, we also have my courses at courses.tracymigration.com.au. Thank you for listening in, and I'll see you guys in the next video.